That's right, okay.
Hey folks, Hal Shurtleff here with Camp Constitution, and we're at the Future of Christendom Conference Saturday evening, and I'm here with Matthew Trewhella, who is the author of the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates. And so tell us a little bit about your ministry and a little bit about the book, and why did you write this book?
Oh, absolutely. Well, our ministry is to the magistrates. We try to instruct them in this doctrine of lesser magistrates, and also we instruct the people at large.
And define a magistrate, a sheriff,
any
a
elected
police
or
chief,
appointed government official, one who possesses public authority, and whether appointed or elected. And the doctrine itself is simply that when the higher-ranking civil authority makes unjust or immoral law, policy, or court opinion, the lower or lesser-ranking civil authority has both the right and the duty not to obey the higher authority or the superior authority, and actively resist if necessary.
Now, you're from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And that's America's dairy land. And I'm sure there's some raw milk around Wisconsin.
Yes.
And was it Wisconsin or Indiana where there was a sheriff that refused to implement this policy of federal government's policy on raw milk?
It was Indiana. I forget the sheriff's name. He's read my book. And he interposed to use this authority as a sheriff to make state officials stand down in what they were trying to do regarding shutting down this farmer's raw milk.
Now, can you give some recent other examples of the lesser magistrate taking action?
Oh, absolutely. I spoke in Idaho about 2 years ago, and when I spoke out there, some legislators came. One of the legislators who came invited the county sheriff to come and listen also. He didn't want to come. He thought, oh, that's too radical. Well, 7 weeks after I taught the people there the doctrine of lesser magistrate, this one legislator who attended, a Vietnam veteran in her jurisdiction, in her district, he was going to have all his guns seized by the federal government based on his financial status. They've taken him away based on mental status. Now they've been taking him away based on financial status. And so she put the lesser magistrate doctrine into action. She gathered 90 people out on his front lawn, contacted the media. They had numerous legislators there, and the county sheriff, who wouldn't come to the original meeting, was there that day. And finally, after 3 hours, and you can Google this and find it all online. The federal government sent out their lackey, and he said, "Okay, we're not going to take Mr. So-and-so's guns today."
Today, right?
Well, in the end, they worked everything out where they never did take away his guns. This is a perfect example of the doctrine of lesser magistrate.
And this was a recent. Now, when you say doctrine, are you referring to a biblical doctrine?
That's right.
And
we call it a doctrine because it was first formalized by Christian men in 1550 in Magdeburg, Germany. It's seen in the Old Testament. It's practiced by nations throughout history, both Christian nations, the Jewish nation, but even in pagan, non-Christian, non-Jewish countries, showing that it's natural to man. But it was Christian men who formulated it as a doctrine, showing from Scripture and history that the magistrates, the lower magistrates, have a right not to obey, a God-given right and duty, not to obey the superior authority if they make unjust or immoral law, policy, or court opinion.
of course, in our Constitution, in Article 6, it talks about all laws made in pursuance thereof of the Constitution.
Yes.
And was it the Marbury case, Marbury versus Madison case, that said basically any law that's made that contradicts the Constitution? I'm not quoting it verbatim, but is repugnant to the Constitution and should not. You have a duty not to enforce it.
That's correct. That was the Marbury case. It's the same exact case the lawyers now use to say that all other branches of government are beholden to the federal judiciary regarding what is or isn't constitutional.
Yeah.
That is a total fiction. It's not true to history in any way. Our founders established a true federalism. In a true federalism, you have multiple levels of government and multiple branches within each level of government. And the reason our founders did that is they were of a Christian persuasion, and their view of man was such that they didn't want authority to rest in the hands of one man or a small group of men. This way, if any one branch of government began to play the tyrant, the other branches would resist them.
Yeah, exactly.
Be a check. Exactly.
the lady in Kansas, Kim.
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Davis.
Thank you, Kim Davis. Thank you. It was an Obama's attorney general sent out a federal marshal to arrest her and put her in a county prison.
Yes.
And I think the way it should have worked is that sheriff should have arrested the federal marshal, put him in a county prison, and then billed Obama for the incarceration fee.
Exactly. In fact, I was involved there, and I spoke there right outside the jail.
Did you really? That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. And that was one of the things we did point out to the sheriff, is that what his duty was in regards to the actions that were taking place. And we also pointed out to Kim Davis that her duty wasn't just not to get to the point where she didn't have to participate, because that's what she wanted. She just didn't want to participate by putting her name on the
And she would have violated Kentucky law.
Kentucky law at that time, absolutely.
That's right.
We told her duty was beyond that as a magistrate, she had a duty to actually oppose the evil, to stop it. And so it was unfortunate how that all played out in the end, because in the end what they did is, when Matt Bevin got in there, they passed a law that acknowledged homosexual marriage and freed all the county clerks from having to put their signature on the marriage license laws. They should have just defied the federal judiciary, as state government should have done back in 1973 with Roe v. Wade.
That's exactly right, yes. Because the Supreme Court does not have its own police or an army, so the enforcement measure has to be the Attorney General's office. So how can people get a copy of your book or learn more about your important work?
The book I wrote on the Doctrine of Lesser Magistrates is available at Amazon. It's also available at our website, which is defytyrants.com.
I love that. I'm going to show your little bumper sticker here.
Sure.
The state is not God. defytyrants.com. Well, and you've got some DVDs and some other materials here too.
Great resources available there, and to explain the doctrine and equip people in
Great.
our day.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hey,
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you.